Hello, I'm Jessica Kozar of Boardman High School TV, along with my co-host, attorney Mark Huberman, and we are pleased to bring you another edition of Boardman Biography, a BSTN program devoted to profiling educators and community members who have made significant contributions to the Boardman schools and the Boardman community.
Our guest for this edition of Boardman Biography is a truly legendary figure in the Boardman schools as well as in the Moline Valley. He built what was arguably one of the most respected basketball programs in the state of Ohio. He was also a beloved and highly regarded teacher in the Boardman schools. I've known and watched him in action for 25 years and always marveled at the love he engendered from his athletes, the high grades they always achieved, and the difference that he made in so many of their lives. I'm referring to none other than the longtime former coach of the Lady Basketball Spartans, Mr. Moschella. Ron, welcome to Boardman Biography.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Before getting into your coaching and teaching career, let's talk a little bit about your background and your family. Did you grow up in Boardman?
Yes, I did. I grew up in Boardman. I unfortunately decided to go to Ursuline High School, and I should have went to Boardman, but I went to Ursuline High School, and that was a long time ago.
What did your parents do?
My dad was worked in the steel mill. My mother worked down at Strasse Hirschberg, which a long time ago was downtown. And at that time, it was pretty, hectic downtown. Everything was downtown. And if I had practice, basketball practice, I would have to catch a bus, and I'd have to transfer to another bus to get back home. And if I ever had detention, I was really in trouble.
But you never did.
I can't say that.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have one sister. She's older. One sister.
And what does she do?
She's retired right now. She worked as a bank teller.
And were you involved in any athletics or activities in school?
I played basketball at Ursuline High School, and I played baseball, for a long time. And
you were the center on the team?
Oh, the center, right. I was the center of the bench, probably. But I played basketball. I was always, when I was young, I would go down to Kirkmere Playground and watch the older guys play. They would never get me in. I was young, but I would just watch, and I saw a lot of talent down there, and I just learned from the game. And I wasn't very good. And when I was in 8th grade, I was not very good. And they kept me because my buddies said I had a basketball hoop at my house.
Was the coach as hard on you as you are on your coach?
Yeah, my coach, my 8th grade coach was. But they kept me on the team for only that purpose. So I dedicated myself to really work hard at it, and I did. And by my sophomore year, I started at Ursuline, and I wasn't very good though, but I did start.
That's impressive.
Did you play or beat Boardman?
We didn't play Boardman at the time. We were in the city series, and we played like a triple header at South High School. That was the big thing. And when we played, there would always be a big crowd, But then there was 3 games, and we always played the 3rd game. So you'd be excited because there's so many people there. And then we'd come out, and everybody left.
Did you have any favorite teachers or coaches?
Mr. Frank Beck, he's still alive, and he comes to the games at Boardman. He's a Boardman resident, and I think he's about 80 years old right now.
Is his son Rick Beck that taught for us?
No relation. And just a fine guy. Taught me a lot about the game of basketball, especially aggressiveness and playing hard.
So he's the one we have to blame.
Yeah, right.
After you graduated from Ursuline, did you go straight to college? Or
Yes,
did you
I
work?
did. I went to Kent State University. Mm-hmm. And I worked my way through. I was an RA in the dorms, and I was in the football dorm, and we had, pretty good time. Sometimes football players can get out of hand, so I had to control them.
So were you at Kent in 1970?
Yeah.
And what did you have a recollection of what it was like?
I had a recollection. I was in the cafeteria at the time. My wife was a secretary at Taylor, the architecture building where it happened, and she stayed in where the shootings happened. She was in the office at the time, and then we heard things, and there was when the National Guard took over, and we left the cafeteria, and it was just a melee, and that night we had to get out of the university, and they searched the university for guns and stuff like that. It was a real hectic time, political situation over Vietnam, and
Did you know Sandy Schroyer?
No, I didn't
From
know
Boardman?
Sandy, no.
One of the 4 kids that was
Yeah,
killed?
I think she was on her way to the speech.
She was just,
theater.
right. She was not an involved kid at all?
No, and that shooting's about 300 yards, I think, 400 yards. It's far, so I don't know how that bullet got there, but it did.
Terrible time.
Terrible. It was really, scary at the time. And the campus really wasn't comfortable at the time.
Did you play ball at college?
No, I didn't play basketball. I hardly made the team when I was at Ursuline.
What made you want to become a teacher?
I was in business, and for some reason, and for some reason, I just saw the competitiveness in business, and I didn't like some of it, what I was learning at Kent. And so I went to high school, and they told me that, that they were having these vocational programs where you could teach business, and I could use my business background for the kids. So I decided to go that way in education, and I really enjoy kids. I still sub here, and I enjoy it, and they keep you young, and I like it.
Let's talk about your family and teaching. Where did you meet your wife, Judy?
I met in grade school,
wow.
in 7th grade.
Childhood sweetheart?
Yes, in 7th grade, and we've been together since. So
how many years is that?
I think it's like 50.
Wow.
I was 12 years old.
That's crazy.
And it's time for a change. No.
So you got married when you were 12 years old?
No, I'm saying we dated and stuff. We were together. And then, we went to Ursuline together. We went to college together. And, she lived off campus. I lived on campus. And then we had 3 girls, and that was fun. I enjoyed them. And they all played for me. And they were pretty good. I don't think they had the problems kids have today. It was a lot simpler back then, I think. Now it's a little bit more complicated for kids.
About your wife, it must have been hard to keep things together with you on the road and traveling for coaching. How did she handle that?
She handled it pretty good. She still doesn't know what a point guard is, but I mean, she handled it pretty good.
She deserved a Purple Heart?
Yeah, probably. When the kids, sometimes I brought it back home when the kids played for me, and we talked about it, about some of the things that I wanted done as a basketball coach, and then she would intercede and protect them. And so that was sort of tough at times.
Your daughters, they're Nadine, Jolene, and Christine. Where did the Eanes come from?
I don't know. We started with Christine, and then when I taught at Howland, a girl, one of my favorite students, got killed in an auto accident, and then my second daughter was born, and I loved her name. Her name was Nadine, so we named her Nadine. And then my third daughter, my father passed away, and I wanted to name her after my dad. My dad's name was Joe, and then we came up with Jolene.
So there is a story.
There
Yeah.
you go.
There you are.
You said you were at Howland, so Boardman was not your first teaching position?
No, I was at Howland for 6 years.
Is that the only other school you were at?
Yes, that's the only other school I was at.
Who
Go
hired? Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
No, that's okay. How'd you get to Boardman then?
A position in marketing education. Chuck Whitman, we taught marketing education here. It was called distributive education. And I was at Howland, and someone called me from Boardman. And they told me about the position was available, so I applied, and I got the job.
Did you know much about Boardman at the time?
I knew everything about Boardman.
Well, you grew up here.
I mean, it
so
was Boardman.
Did you know, was this a place where you wanted to teach at some point if the job
I
opened?
think it was the ultimate at the time. At
Yeah.
that time, we were probably the highest paid, probably top 10 paid teachers in Ohio. The education, it had a reputation of being the best school around. And it was. When I got here, I was treated like, royalty.
So even though you went to Ursuline, your girls went to Boardman?
Yes.
And that was an easy decision?
We lived in Canfield for a time. And Christine said, I'm not going to Canfield, I'm going to Boardman. And I said, well, we live in Canfield, what are we going to do? And she said, Dad, I'm not going to Canfield. Okay, and so we moved for her, and all my kids went to Boardman.
So what schools did you teach here in Boardman?
High school.
You always at the high school?
Yes. I taught vocational ed, which is marketing education, and we had that program for a long time.
And when you were here, did you have favorite colleagues?
Yes,
People
I did.
that you really, who
I don't know if they were my colleagues and they were my heroes at the same time. Frank Centofanti and I went back. I used to go watch him play basketball at Rocky Ridge, and he was a great basketball
And a
player.
great teacher.
Yeah, and a very good teacher. Don DiLorenzo, who passed away unfortunately, was a dear friend of mine, and I had a lot of friends here.
So when did you begin coaching?
I think that was 80. I coached golf in 78, and then I went to, and then I heard about the basketball job, and Mr. Selby called me in, and he told me there's an assistant basketball job, and Denise Gorski was the head coach, and he suggested I take it. And I said, okay, and I took it, and I really never had an interest in coaching. And Denise coached for 1 year, and I don't know if I chased her out or whatever, but we talk about that all the time. She became a great track coach.
Really did.
And I really admired her, and I got the varsity assistant.
So
varsity
what
head.
year would this have been?
That was 81.
So you're about 8 years past Title IX, right?
Yeah.
So it took a little while for Title IX to really kick in here in Boardman and other schools?
Yes, it was.
Because I look back in my own, I graduated in '69. I looked in my yearbook for girls basketball. There was none.
Yeah,
There were no girls sports.
There was. I don't know why it wasn't.
Not an official sport, at least not that,
Yeah.
not in the yearbook.
Yeah,
All it was,
in the record books, we have it. Jan Conway played,
Okay.
and I went back and looked into records, and at that time they played at Glenwood, and they would use the curtains as half court, and they played the game, and then they got to use the full court, and we weren't allowed to play in the high school. Then, our athletic director, Al Burns, when he took over the AD's position, he was, a tremendous basketball coach. And he was somebody I looked up to all the time. And I always got, I watched him coach and how he handled kids. And he just had a unique way of doing it. And he was very successful. And he became the AD, and he moved the girls to the high school. That's when it started to go for us.
but Title IX really made it, really transformed women's sports and created
did.
women's sports.
It really did.
Prior to that,
Prior to that, there wasn't any sports. When I was in high school, there were.
kickball,
Kickball, right? That was about it.
dancing in the gym.
Yeah, but
Did you ever want to coach boys?
I thought about it, but I really enjoy girls, and I have my experience watching boys play and being around boys basketball coaches and everything. I think sometimes boys think they know how to play the game, and they don't listen as well. Okay, and girls, they're learning the game, and they're very attentive, and they're fun to coach. They work hard, and I don't think they bring the attitudes that sometimes boys basketball.
Was it tough coaching your own daughters?
I didn't think it was. My wife did.
How about them?
I think they might say it was tough being coached by me. And I always told them you had to be good enough to play. Not only good enough to play, but you had to be one of the top players on the team, or I was going to get a lot of heat.
So I remember some years ago there was a dinner for your 400th
Win.
celebration of your 400th coaching
Right.
victory. What is your record in coaching?
I'm getting close to 600, 590.
And are you the dean of victories in this area, coaching?
Yeah.
And
Well, I've been in it a long time.
to what do you? Yeah, it's longevity. Not
It's
success.
longevity. That's exactly right.
So you have been phenomenally successsul though. To what do you attribute your great success as a basketball coach?
I contribute my great success for basketball coaches to my great athletes. We had a string of athletes for the period that I coached that were just tremendous athletes, and kids that went on to Division I basketball, Division II basketball, Division III basketball. We had great teams, but the teams were made up of great basketball players.
Do you have a philosophy of coaching? I mean, you know, there's John Wooden's, there's
I'm probably
Bobby Knight's.
I'm probably diametrically different than Johnny Wooden. I'm a Bobby Knight disciple. I've gone to his clinics, and I just liked what he stood for. He stood for, you know, he stood for academics. He stood for hard work. He stood for loyalty and honesty, and that's what I like about him. And I think he taught kids life lessons, and that's part of coaching.
I was combing the Huberman School Board archives some years ago and came across a feature on you in the 2001 edition of the Youngstown Vindicator, which I don't know if we can bring it up, The Many Moods of Ron Moschella here. And you know, so how do you explain the Ron Moschella off the court and the Ron Moschella on the court? When I see you off the court, you're the most easygoing guy in the world. Kids adore you, everybody's around you, you're laughing, you're joking. When you're on the court, it's like a switch goes.
I think it stems back to when I wasn't good enough to play basketball, and I had to work hard at it, and I had to hustle. I had to be the most aggressive person on the court because I was the littlest person on the court. I mean, short and skinny. Not I'm short and fat now, but I had to work hard at it, and I saw what it got me, and that's the way I wanted my players to play, and I think it just you know, it just permeates to the athletes. They understand where I'm coming from. I don't think the athletes minded it. Okay, I think sometimes parents minded it, other communities minded it.
I was looking in this Vindicator article that I think is up on the monitor, and it's showing you. It's not you. It's somebody else. It's your twin. It's right. It's your twin.
It's not me.
But interestingly enough, you're landed. There's a girl. I think it was Dana Snyder.
Yes.
And she's smiling. You're unloading on her, and she's smiling. And I did notice that a lot. That you know they sort of understood.
They understood what it was about. I think they understood that that I cared about them. You know, Jim Tressel, he spoke at one of our seminars here to the faculty, and he says, you know, you could demand anything from kids as long as they know that you care and love them. Mm-hmm. And I think I tried to get that across.
Well, it's clearly to me that it wasn't just basketball that, you know, engendered kids' affection for you, but you also engendered the affection of kids all over the district. And probably one of my other archives was I was looking at my 1997 edition of the Boardman Crier, and there was Ron Moschella as a yearbook dedication.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea that was coming?
No, I had no idea. I'm looking at my head as a baby. Geez, that thing was big.
What kind of a moment was that?
Pardon me?
What kind of a moment?
What kind of moment?
Yeah.
I saw the people that went in, my heroes on the faculty, and I always admired those people, and then I got to be one of those people, and it was really heartwarming, and it was a great experience.
Last basketball question.
Go ahead.
Was the regional victory over Solon, district or regional? I think it was regional
Right.
victory over Solon some years ago with a little team that could. I think with the Cyrac twins or something.
Right.
Was that one of your best victories?
Oh, I think it was.
Out of nowhere.
We weren't ranked, and they were ranked. You know, they were #1 in the state, and we beat them. You know, with a team that everybody
Had no big stars.
No, they just played together, and they worked hard, and I just enjoyed that team so much. Mm-hmm. And that was our first time we went to state, and that was fun. And the kids were great. They were great students, and there was a love there on the team, and it was fun.
Do you have a favorite player that you've ever coached?
No, I don't have a favorite player. I have memories of a lot of players, but you know, we've had great players, but but I don't do that. But I remember great players. But I have to say, overall, I've had great kids. You know, I remember a girl that played for me. She wasn't very good, and she played, and she had a very bad attitude. her freshman year, horrible attitude. And then the next year she had a horrible attitude again, and we had discussion after discussion. By the time she got to be a senior, she sat on the bench and she would play a little bit. And then she came to me and she said, that was the greatest experience I've ever had. And I see her every once in a while now. I go for the underdog. There's a kid that wasn't good. She stuck it out, and she became successful in life, and I really, really admire her.
Now, when you say discussions, were they discussions?
They were just one-sided discussions. Okay, one-sided. But that's the thing about coaching. That's what makes it. The victories are great. And I think coaches get too much blame when they lose, and the kids get all the credit when they win. And I just think coaching isn't about wins and losses. It's about the connections you make with kids, and it's a facility that you get the opportunity to work with kids. It just doesn't have to deal with basketball. And to see her succeed, and she told me the other day that was the greatest experience I ever had in my life. Nice. And that's what I like.
About retirement, after you retired at Boardman, didn't you coach at Columbiana?
Yeah, I retired, reluctantly. I got sick. I didn't want to retire, but I felt like it was I had to, because I didn't want to be one of those coaches that rode it out for a year and then came back. And my, Jeff Hamilton, who coaches, is like a son to me. And I wasn't going to do that to him. If he was going to take the team for a year, I figured I better retire and let him take it for I didn't want to go like a yo-yo, and the kids wouldn't understand that. So I retired, and then I got better, and I watched a couple games, and Jeff and I would go out to dinner and talk about the games, and Christine, who coaches with Jeff, and I started to miss it again, and so I had an opportunity to go to Columbiana. Donnie Mook, who was a wrestler here and a Hall of Fame football player, is a superintendent at Columbiana, and he heard about that I wanted to get back into coaching, and he hired me out at Columbiana, and it's been great so far.
What was it like changing teams after all those years?
It was hard. My allegiance, is Boardman High School. I still go to the games, and I still support the team, and I've coached here for 31 years, and then I'm at Columbiana. It's different. It's a smaller community, but I find that the kids are the same. We have a lot of great kids at Columbiana.
So tell us about your grandchildren, especially you got one who's like a golf star, right?
No, I don't have one. I have two. One gets all the press. He has a good PR guy.
How good is he?
He's real good. And I'm the golf coach here, so, I'm excited about that.
You still coach Boardman golf?
Yeah, I still coach Boardman golf, and Brian is my grandson, and he plays golf pretty well. But Jenna Vivo, who also plays golf, she's an excellent golfer, and I'm looking forward to her coming to the high school next year. Both of them are coming to the high school.
Very good. So what do you do for recreation when you're not coaching basketball, or is there a pastime?
We go golf. Well, my pastime is golfing with my grandkids.
Doesn't get any better than that?
No, it doesn't get any better than that. It's fun, and sometimes they listen to me and sometimes they don't. But, we have a good time. We go golfing, we go out to eat, and, we have a good relationship. And that's what I like, and it's a lot easier with your grandkids than your own kids. It's fun. Mm-hmm. And then we have little Tyler.
And they're still short enough to look up to you.
No, they're taller than me now. But we have little Tyler. He's a swimmer. He swims for our swimming coach, and at Boardman Swim Club. And I have.
Don't get any better coaches than that either.
No. He likes that.
And he's not your style either.
Oh no, he isn't.
Mr. O'Halloran.
No, he isn't. And then I've got Tessa and Gianna and Jimmy. Jimmy, the oldest grandson, is going to. I forget the name of the school, but he's coming to the high school next year, and he's my oldest. He doesn't play any sports, but he's into computers and stuff like that. So
We'll find a home for him.
yeah, I hope so. If you can't find something at Boardman, there's something wrong. There's a lot of opportunities at Boardman, and kids should take advantage of it because they're not like that at other schools. Sure. And then I have Leah, the two twins, Leah and Nikki. I'm gonna miss somebody. I know I am. And they're 4 years old. I have Emma, Christine's daughter, and Emma, Tyler, and Brian. And she's 4, and she's about 4 feet tall now. So hopefully she might be our post player, in basketball. But I hope I didn't miss anybody. I probably did.
Well, Mr. Moschella, we're about at the end of this edition of Boardman Biography. But I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your many years of service to the Boardman Schools and the lives of all the students and student athletes you touched.
Well, we certainly go back a long way together through some entertaining times. Yes, we did. We always had fun, and I know, and I want you to know that your on-the-court antics sometimes drove me crazy. But the thing that I always kept in the back of my mind was, and the quality that I think I admired most about you was that your classroom performance and the classroom performance of team after team. I would come to your banquets. I think I was one of the few that board members would come to your banquets when
have to get you
you needed a friend, you had to get a special plate. But I was always amazed at when you would, the priority that you always put on academics, like you said, Bobby Knight was your mentor about that, and you would ask the kids to stand up with a 4-point or a 3.8 and all that, and astonishingly, you always had the mass was that, and that was the model. And I guess I always took from that that it was the standard that you demanded of your kids, or that you inspired in your kids. And I also thought a little bit, kids that you keep busy, you got to learn organization.
Exactly.
And they did. But
Right.
you, that was something that I always admired so many of the fine young women that you created who came out of that program. That something you have every right to be proud of.
Well, thank you very much, Mark.
Really did some great things for a lot of great athletes in Boardman. So
it was fun.
thanks for being with us. Great to share your
Thank
story.
you very much. It was fun working with you, too.
Yeah.
We hope you have once again enjoyed this edition of Boardman Biography. If you have great Boardmanites in mind that you would like to see profiled, please feel free to write or email us your suggestions and we will try to line them up. In the meantime, thank you for tuning in and thanks for your continued support of the Boardman Schools Television Network.